Hello, no one. Welcome to my live stream. If you are watching this, I wanted to go over some of the best protocol or the best configuration to set up video ads. So a lot of you guys, when you do onboard under ad types in Ezoic ads of the dashboard, a lot of you guys like to select floating video placeholder, but in theory that will only work with the specific configuration unless you actually do have your own videos and add your video placeholder to a page and can kind of configure it that way. But I think for the overwhelming majority of people, especially with the feedback I've gotten, is sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought as I was saying something. They don't have their own videos, which is totally fine. So if you're sitting there saying, you know what, I actually don't even have any videos at all. I haven't created any. I don't own any. I don't know how to. I'll basically be walking you guys through that. So I'm going to give everyone a handful of minutes to join, but that is one of the most important things that we're going to go over today. If you are watching this, on top of that, we're also going to go over good placeholder configuration. We're going to look at a longer article. We're going to look at a shorter one as well, and maybe talk about how many ads is a good configuration. On top of that, how many placeholders is a good configuration. We're going to talk about some of the highest performing ads in terms of limiting user experience hindrance. Yeah, and go from there. So we're also gonna be backing up all this with obviously current data. It's not going to be random facts. But yeah, that's going to be majority of what we're going over today. I think the Access Now program in general is going to be taking excuse me, a massive turn in the next couple of weeks. So one of the biggest pieces of feedback is publishers kind of come on and they have so much to do. They have to onboard a site, they got to set up everything, and a lot of people are also new to the kind of publishing world. So one of the major changes is we're basically going to take all that work off your guys' shoulders and say, hey, we realize it's a lot. We realize it's, you got to have a pretty good configuration in order to be successful. So from now on, we're just going to be doing it for you guys, which is kind of a really exciting thing. It sounds like a major task from the external side of things, but I think we're doing a really good job of kind of automating things where we can, and basically figuring out a process where, if we had a massive influx in signups and whatnot, we can kind of handle that balance. Expert Mentor says, hi, Charlie. Hello to you too. I don't think we've met before, um, but I'm happy to join. Slim Empire, I don't know if I've seen you in here before either, but I'm happy to have you guys both. Um, but yeah, I'm curious where you guys are checking in from. I'm currently in our San Diego office, which is in Carlsbad, California, which is Southern California, but we're in the North County of San Diego. So I'm curious where you guys are checking in from. But yeah, I'm also gonna just stall for a couple minutes because I like to give people at least a handful of minutes to kind of gather their bearings and get in here. But on top of that, oh, from New York, super cool. New York City, or are you upstate New York? Maybe you're closer to the coast. But yeah, for you guys, if you're new here or if you're returning, we can do just as Infometrics just did. They just basically comment something down in the comment section, and then I can answer that directly here. If you guys want me to share my screen and say, hey, Charlie, can you try to find a quick example of this for my question? I can share my screen and troubleshoot firsthand. I can show you basically, how we sometimes look at headers. I can show you how I interact with the dashboard. And I can also just show you how to solve problems regardless. And if you don't want me to share my screen and you don't want me to even look at your domain and share your specific page, that's totally fine. I can kind of just answer it objectively without taking a look at it. Doesn't mean I'll always be 100% perfectly right, but I'll do my best to kind of put you guys in the right direction. And if not, I can give you guys kind of a good amount of information to then maybe take to the community and ask for help. Right now we have Tucker, Amanda, and Taylor in there. I'm not sure if you guys have met Taylor, but Taylor was on our team, about a year ago, and she was out for maternity leave, which is, really exciting in itself. But on top of that, she's now back in office, which is really exciting. Um, cool. The Savvy Engineer, I love the name. They're also in here. So a bunch of new faces, which is exciting. Of course, I love seeing reoccurring faces because I like to establish that, a little bit of a community. I think we all work behind the computers enough, whether it be, with us in support or, through WordPress or whatever you're doing with your website. So it's kind of nice to connect face to face here. But enough of the explaining, enough of the buying time here. Let's kind of start jumping into it. Hello, Charlie. My site was performing well, but when I came to Ezoic, the Google Search Console data is effectively going down. Ranking gone down. What's your opinion on it? So this is actually a very good first question because there is a scenario. So one of the common hosts that we offer and suggest is actually Bluehost. And to give you guys a little bit of a background information, when you guys integrate through our cloud, so you're either name server or Cloudflare integration, we basically automatically pull the DNS records from your host. And so we'll pull the A record and everything from your host, so it's copied exactly in Ezoic. But sometimes Bluehost will actually enable Cloudflare on their end. And what that actually does is that changes the A record that they have in Bluehost to be a Cloudflare IP. So then our side, we say, oh, we see that their A record changed. Let's update our records to make sure it matches what's at your host. But in reality, now we're pulling a Cloudflare IP and not the actual A record IP of their host. So we're not actually, so that's when your actual Google Search Console will go down and your pages won't be indexed anymore. So that's the background of what happens. So Infometrics, if this is your case, all we have to do is actually update the A record. It takes maybe 10 seconds. I will be more than happy to show you how to do that. I can try to find your site if it's anything like your username. If not, and you want me to take a quick look at it, just let me know what your domain name is in the comment section. If you do comment your domain in the comment section, YouTube will actually try to remove any comments that look like a domain or a URL. So just exclude the .com or the .xyz or anything like that. So that way I can actually pull it. So yeah, if your ranking is going down, then that is most likely what the issue is, because simply integrating with our platform will not cause your site to go down or to lose any rankings like that. So yeah. So Monster Jams, this is a really good question. Actually, let me take a step back. It looks like I missed a question. Recently got approved after get rejected for about 6 months, and from Nigeria. So that's cool that you're from Nigeria. I think we have a massive, audience from Nigeria of publishers that use Ezoic, which is really cool. It's fun to connect with people all over the world. But to take a step back, I just want to get a better understanding of what exactly you're asking, because you're saying you recently I got approved after get rejected for about 6 months. So I don't know if this is a question more of a statement, but it seems like you were disapproved and you are now approved. So Monster James says, is it advisable to deactivate the Namecheap Easy WordPress for the Ezoic plugin? So let me take a look at and see what the Namecheap Easy WordPress plugin does. But while I do this, I can talk about all the reasons why it is very beneficial to actually have the the Ezoic WordPress plugin enabled. That being is we can actually auto generate about 59 placeholders for your entire domain. So it can be all your articles, excuse me, whether they're short or long, they'll kind of be dialed in with placeholders head to toe. Through the Ezoic plugin, you can actually also configure automatic caching, which is really beneficial. So if you're in WordPress and you make a change to one of your URLs, you then don't have to go into the Ezoic dashboard and clear the cache for that specific URL. That will be all fully automated. But let me see what this Namecheap plugin does. Namecheap. So yeah, if any of you guys aren't using the Ezoic plugin, or maybe if you are, I would just make sure that you are setting up automatic caching. That way you're just saving time, and that way if you do make changes and maybe you forget to clear your cache, not a big issue, because it'll automatically be cleared. Let me send that article for you guys really quick. So the article I'm going to send for you guys right here is actually going to be, that's interesting. Here, let me send this down to the bottom. So this article is going to specifically be for setting up the automatic caching. Let me see what this actually does. So this easy WordPress. Okay, so this is a hosting solution. Um, I don't know if this is the same as normal Namecheap hosting. The only thing I want to say is sometimes when you guys do use Namecheap and you guys are using Ezoic name servers and not Namecheap name servers, what they'll actually do is they're gonna block off all of your DNS records just because just because the name servers aren't pointing to Namecheap. So it's kind of been an annoying process if you do need to locate your DNS records at your host. Sometimes you'll have to remove integration entirely, or Namecheap says, pay $30 a month in order to get access to your DNS records. So I don't know what the actual number is. It's not $30. Don't quote me on that. But that's kind of something that to consider when using Namecheap, even though we are fully compatible with them. But it looks like it says, oh, Monster James was saying they were just looking at the caching functions. So in terms of the caching functions, I would just use it through Ezoic because you can then control everything in terms of site speed, hosting, SSL, privacy, consent, whatever you want, all within the Ezoic dashboard. Our CDN, excuse me, our cloud caching does have all the same features of most, if not all, caching plugins outside of Ezoic. So if there's something specific feature-wise that you like in your current caching service, then let me know what it is, and I can point you in the right direction of how you can then utilize that in the Ezoic's caching app. So yeah, I would suggest using Ezoic's caching, but if not, let me see if this is specifically covered, if it's compatible, because not all caching plugins are compatible with Ezoic. Some of the ones that are really common and are compatible with Ezoic, again, let me reference that are compatible with Ezoic are, W3 Total Cache, WP Super Cache, and WP Rocket Cache are all recommended, or excuse me, are all compatible with Ezoic. W3 Total Cache is not recommended for speed. Um, and the known incompatible plugins are Swift Performance Cache, Lightspeed Caching, WP Fastest Cache, Auto Optimize Cache, WP Optimize, and SG Optimizer. So those are the plugins that are not compatible with Ezoic. Um, and that's kind of how I'm going to answer that one for there. Yeah, Infometrics. I'll be happy to look at your domain. I just don't know what your domain name is yet. So just let me know what it is and I'll be happy to take a look. So if you're here to help any technical issues, please open a ticket with our publisher success team here. They will get back to you as soon as possible for any setup or performance related topic. So yeah, you can, if you have a publisher success manager, you can do that. And if not, our entire team will help troubleshoot and work with you actually within the community. So I'm going to drop a link down at the bottom there. It's going to be, community.ezoic.com/t/access now onboarding assistance and troubleshooting. And we'll have basically people on our team in there almost all hours of the day, 7 days a week. A little bit less online during the weekend, but we'll still be in there to check and help whenever you need. Let me make sure. Cool. Let me answer this one. Migrated to Ezoic from AdSense, but my site stayed in no response mood for months. And when I lifted my website, I get this message from Josh, who is Ezoic agent, I think. So I'm very curious what this no response mood is. But if you did migrate from Ezoic or from AdSense to Ezoic, one of the most important things I want you guys to configure is actually AdSense mediation, which then allows basically the AdSense partners to bid against the Ezoic ones to ensure you're earning as much as possible for all of your inventory. But I'm curious what you said no response mood for months. Oh, that was the response. Sorry, I read that backwards. Um, yeah, so if you did remove integration, you probably got an email of some sort. But if you were having technical issues and you're in our program, you can either reach out to me here and let me know what it was, and I can kind of troubleshoot firsthand if you want, or you can just post it in the community and let us know what the issue was. Also, if you guys want me to take a look at your site and you don't want to post it in the comment section, post it into the community right here. And I have Anna and Tucker there and Taylor in there right now. And what they're actually going to do is they're just going to send any of those threads that you guys post to me. So then I can actually find your account and you don't have to post it in the comment section. That way you guys can remain, anonymous, and you don't have to then share your information here publicly on the YouTube channel. So again, if you want me to look at your domain, just post something in the community and say, hey, I'm in the live stream. I want Charlie to look at this. And then from there, they're just going to send me that thread so then I can open it up and look at everything from my end. Slim Empire says, hi, Charlie. I get so many ads in my content and it's killing the user experience. I tried changing the goal still and it ain't working well. Okay, so there's a lot of things we want to look into. First thing I would like to ask is, how did you set up your placeholders? If you don't want to and you don't know the best configuration, you can go ahead and ask us to do that, because we are now going through and setting up your guys' ads for you and your placeholders, because that's going to be what's most important. Something to look at is, definitely your average in time, your average engagement for your pages. You can also check out your bounce rate. You can make changes to your certain pages and then actually, maybe remove some ads if you'd want. But then again, you can go through and you can kind of test the user engagement from the time you made the changes to the time before. So you can say, hey, I actually made these changes. Engagement went up, bounce rate went down. My EPMV even might have gone up or down. Regardless, you can actually make those changes to your pages. You still have full control over the configuration, and then just use the analytics to create a test to actually look at. I want to show you guys how you can actually do this within the dashboard. This is a really good thing to know. Getting handy with our analytics is one of the best things you guys should all use in order to kind of grow your business. But I just want to show you, how you can actually run this test yourself. So yeah, Monster James, I would definitely say, especially if they're using WordPress hosting, I noticed that sometimes within WordPress they'll say, like, they might have like a deal with like Jetpack or something that I've seen actually with Namecheap, and they'll say, hey, now that you've set up through our hosting or through Namecheap, now you need to enable Jetpack. So sometimes they'll just like have like really easy setup buttons, say, hey, enable caching, enable this, enable that. But I would go through and actually disable all forms of caching within your host, because those are not compatible with Ezoic, and it just creates more issues. For example, on my site, within WordPress, they were basically saying, now that I did the setup steps, the next setup step, I can't speak English, the next setup step is to enable Jetpack. But in reality, Jetpack is not compatible with Ezoic, so it kind of sets you up with this layup to set up Jetpack, but it's not compatible. So I would say yes, go through your configuration at your host and disable all caching there. Um, Can you use Cloudflare together with the Ezoic CDN at the same time? Yes, but in some ways it's kind of confusing. So we're basically using AWS when you integrate with our cloud, and that's also what Cloudflare uses. So the servers will actually be the same, just the configuration will be a little different. So if you integrate it with if you integrate it with the Ezoic name servers and you want to enable Cloudflare on your site, you can actually still do this totally fine. What you're actually going to do is you're just going to go to the settings tab of your dashboard and then enable Cloudflare. Let me show you guys how to do that really quick. I'll share my screen so you guys can see what I'm doing. I just need to pull it up really quick. Okay, let me share my screen. Bear with me for a second. Cool. So now that I'm in the Ezoic dashboard, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to setting. Wait, what was I looking at again? Oh, it's enable Cloudflare. So it's going to be in the settings tab right here. But what I can also do is just type in Cloudflare right here. But you'll go from the settings tab. You'll see site integration tab, and here you're going to find Cloudflare. So for this publisher specifically, they are actually name server integrated. So if they want Cloudflare enabled, they can simply just go to Cloudflare and hit enable. And that will actually add you to our current Cloudflare account. So you don't need to go ahead and enable your own. But that way you'll be fully dialed in. And then again, you can click on view instructions. You can see they are name server integrated. But I really wanted to show you guys how to basically run a quick test within your analytics. So the one thing you guys can do is select a date range. So let's say, for instance, you made changes on the 16th of this month. So what I'm actually going to do is grab the 16th to the 25th. That way I can gather as much data from when I actually made changes. And then if I want to compare the data prior to my date range, I can simply just press compare, and it's going to pick the same amount of days. So that way my test will have a similar amount of data. And then I can press apply and then run report. And then I can see my revenue from the date range that I selected compared to the one before. But let's say I made changes to a specific page and I wanted to see that. I could go content landing pages, and then this will actually um, filter and create a list basically off the most frequently visited pages. So let's say one of my most top visited pages was this one. This was the one that I also made changes to. I could say, okay, from my date ranged from the 6th to the 15th, this was my visits. This was my page views, my page views per visit, my engaged page views per visit percent-wise. Average engagement. So then basically what I'm saying is you can go through, select the changes, and then you can say, hey, I noticed that my engagement went up almost 20 seconds. So maybe you can say, hey, those changes I made do have a good correlation with more engagement time. You can also say, look, maybe the changes I made have a lower bounce rate. So yes, those are all attributing to better user engagement. That's kind of how you would just test and use the analytics tab to kind of say, hey, I made changes. Are they working? Because there's a lot of other factors that come into play here. Let's say I ran a test at the end of December, and then I wanted to analyze, basically the results from the beginning of January and say, look, I earned way more before I made those changes. Well, the actual causation might not be from the changes you made, but it might be from third-party factors like the ad revenue index. So, ad rates for those days might just been way higher, which is why you want to kind of think about external factors as much as possible. I just wanted to visualize this for you guys really quick. So again, we can see the ad rates at the end of December were higher than what they are now. Not a ton, but again, this is just, how you want to think with like a science head on your shoulders. Think about all the things that can come into play when you are running an experiment. Oh, Opentunde, great to see you. It's been a minute, but yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I do have some exciting things to show that I will go through right after I get to these next couple questions, and I think it'll be very beneficial for you all. But first, let me pull up and then answer this question for you all. How can I get someone from Ezoic that I can go to for help? Is this a monthly subscription in addition to already getting approved for Ezoic? No, we offer support for all of our publishers for free, regardless of what it is. We just offer support in different ways for different teams. So for our team, in your instance, assuming that you are in the Access Now program, what you're going to do is you're just going to go to the community right here. I'm going to post a link for you. Just go to this link and then open up a thread and ask your question there. And we have a handful of people going through and answering and helping out those questions. So yeah, go to this link right here. Ask for help. You don't have to pay a subscription for extra help or anything like that. Yeah, let me walk you through the caching functions really quick before I then go into what I wanted to show you with the video, and then I'm going to answer expert mentors question as well. So let me share my screen so you guys can see. Let me drop this comment. Cool. So I'm in the analytics. I'm going to go back to the dashboard. So from the dashboard, I'm going to go into Leap right here. That's where you're going to find your caching settings. And then caching will be over here on the far left side. And then if we scroll down farther, we can see our cache configuration, or excuse me, our cache setting values. And what we're actually going to do is, this is actually a perfect configuration. The only two things that I would change to set yourself up for better cache hit rate is actually turning all of the values on. So enable caching for cookies, this should be on. And then override cache control header should also be on. Other than that, these settings are perfect. This value is in seconds, and what this is saying, this is 30 days of time for your default cache age. And then 300 seconds for your minimum cache age threshold is perfect. And then 600 seconds for your grace period is perfect. And then all the values should again be on. Let me pull up something really quick. Cool. Sweet. Looks like this is. I just wanted to make sure that my quality was looking okay because I was getting a warning on my screen, but it looks like everything's fine. So, me just overreacting. Read my message from migrated sentence from top chat. I don't. So if your website is just a tool for a URL shortener, we can, but you need to make sure that the tool is not available on many other websites because all your content needs to be original. So whether you have a tool like this that's really useful, and then you also have a really lengthy blog about how you can use it, the proper way to use it. What I'm trying to get at is here, you have to offer something original to your site. So if not, and if it's just tools and content that can be found in many other places, then unfortunately we will not be able to work with the site. Cool. So I'm actually mostly caught up on questions. What I wanted to do is then show you guys basically the perfect configuration for videos. So if you're not video inclined, that's totally fine. And if you are, then even better. This will help you out even more. But I just wanted to show you really quick how you can basically, put yourself in the best position um, for videos. Because that is a major change the kind of whole network is kind of going in. So it's important to utilize the features and tools that we've built because they are so easy to implement, and the changes and the results are going to be so much better, both in terms of engagement and revenue. So if you guys are saying, I don't want to add videos because I think it's going to hurt our user experience, SEMrush actually did a study, which is an SEO company. They did a study and found that on average for pages that do have a video versus don't, the ones that do have a video have almost 85% better engagement. And in turn of that, you'll also see better revenue because the better engagement and better user experience, the longer they're going to obviously be on the page because there's more engagement, but the higher the payout will be because that's kind of how the EPMV calculation works. So let me pull up this domain again. Cache breakdown. What is cache hit rate and cache miss? So cache hit rate is going to be the percentage of your pages that are actually being served through, that we store that are cached versus not. So the best percentages would be technically like 100% cache hit rate and 0% cache miss. But there's many instances where that's not actually feasible, because if you have 500 articles, for example, and 200 of them are older, people aren't really probably visiting them very frequently, and you do need to have people visiting the pages frequently in order to have them serve up to be cached and then serve cached pages. Hopefully that made sense. So yeah, the higher the cache hit rate, the better. And setting up those configuration within cache or within your cache settings will kind of help with that. But you want to think about, if you have old pages that aren't really getting visited, every month or so, then your cache hit rate won't always be 100%, and that's totally fine. You just want to make sure that your pages that are being visited frequently are being cached. All right, I'm gonna share my screen again. So yeah, this is something that you guys can all do realistically right now, and you can earn a lot more in times end. Again, you can use what I showed you earlier and actually run a test once you do make changes. So great question right here. And I can kind of touch on that in a second, but floating video technically shouldn't really, might be difficult to actually enable for mobile, because you want to think about the size of your mobile screen and how much that will actually take up the screen. But to take a step back, if you guys are unfamiliar with our actual video products, Humix is basically a video sharing network. So if you guys have any videos, you can upload them to Humix. And the really cool part about Humix is anyone else on the Ezoic platform that is using Humix can use your videos and show them on your pages, as long as, of course, the content is similar or related. And then you're thinking, well, they created the video and it's on my site, so who's earning the money? The best part is you guys will actually split that revenue. So they don't have to do anything because they already created the video. You don't have to do anything because someone else already created the video. So if you have videos, upload them to Humix and then click on engage and share. I'll show you that. So within Humix, you want to go to channel and then just click on grow and share videos, and then also engage. You want to turn that on. This will allow other publishers to also use your videos. So it's very, very minimal effort at all. And I can also show you guys how you can create your own videos through Ezoic. But yeah, these two features are going to be key. What you guys want to do is, first you want to go to your Ezoic ads tab of the dashboard. We're going to find ad types. And then over here on the far right, we're going to find floating video. You want to go ahead and turn that on for all devices. And then another thing I kind of noticed recently is, if you're also running side rails, I would not run the right side rail if you are running a floating video, because the way the side rail ads work is, if you have a user that has a very wide screen, I'm kind of out of the frame. If you have a user that has a very wide screen, and let's say the content is only from here, that extra padding on the side of your content will actually be where the side rail ads run. And if you have floating video, it also kind of goes outside the main content. And then if you have those both enabled on the right side, what ends up happening is you have this right side rail and then the floating video behind it or in front of it. So that side rail is actually being blocked by the floating video. And the reason why that's such a major issue is because that can lead to a Google policy violation, and we obviously want to avoid that at all costs. So having overlapping ads is a big no-no. So I would say turn on the floating video ad and then run the left side rail ad. Of course, I'm not going to make changes to this publisher's website because it's not mine. They didn't give me consent. Of course, they gave me consent to share. So once you enable that, we're then going to go back to Humix, and we're just going to want to make sure that we go ahead and enable under channel both the share videos and the display network videos. And what this will actually do is this will actually put a ad mid content on your pages. that is going to be very much so related to your content. We actually have a really good configuration of figuring out what's a relevant video for your content. So we'll actually figure out what that relative video is, and we'll put it in your pages for you. So if that's at the top of the page, or on the higher end of the page, let's say the user gets to the top and then starts to read, they'll see that video. Maybe an ad will play before if you configure that way, and then they'll start to watch the video. But let's say, of course, in content, that video is going to stay stagnant or static. Once you keep scrolling and that video is out of view, it will then go down to the corner and float with the page. So that way the engagement for the video is going to be higher. If that's an advertisement still playing, that viewability is going to be higher, and that will drive revenue a lot more. So that's kind of how you want to configure that. And if you do have videos that you want to upload, you can simply just go to Studio, add new video. You can upload a raw video. You can upload a playlist of videos. You can do an entire batch upload. You can actually upload your entire YouTube account. So you can import from YouTube. You can import specific videos if you have a YouTube page. But let's say you have none of those things. Let's say, you know what, Charlie, I'm more than happy to share other people's videos because it helps with my engagement and my revenue and their revenue. So it's a win-win again. But let's say, I don't have any videos, but I want some. We have you covered. So what you can then do is you can actually go into the Flickify tab here, and this Flickify tool will actually convert written content into videos for you. So what you can do is you can just say, hey, I found my top landing page. My top landing page is, my website / my best article. That's of course just an example. What you would do is you would actually just type that out into here and press go. And then there's a couple configurations you can do. You can choose some of the media for the background, choose some of the sounds you want to use. You can even have someone reading the script and a handful of different voices. You can write your own closed captions. You can actually use your own voiceover now. So there's a handful of things you can do to actually create videos, and you can create I'm all out of frame. You can create 5 videos for free through Flickify. So there's no reason any of you guys should have 0 videos at all, because there's really no excuse. And for someone like me that likes, a good reward for, a good amount of effort, this is one of those scenarios where it's very, very minimal effort for very, high rewarding solution. So it's only going to take a couple of minutes to do this, if that, and then you'll have 5 videos at your disposal that are related to your content. So then you're going to have a lot of leverage with that content we create for you. Yeah, so hopefully, some of you guys maybe now or maybe after this will just go ahead and do that, because, you're only going to set yourself up for success. And I will say I've seen a lot of recent case studies where the actual videos that we add to your content are very, very relative and do drive engagement up a lot. So that's something very positive to see if that's a main concern of yours. Cool. Let me go through some more of these questions because I have some good questions coming in here. But yeah, I'm happy to supply this information for you guys. All I want to do is set you guys up for success and give you guys all the insight to it. So I'll be happy to show you how to do that. But Humix videos on mobile float at bottom. Is there a way that Humix videos float on top of mobile? So what we can do is, if you actually go through and turn on those settings in the configuration I just showed you, we should have a video showing on top of the page in the content. And then when you reach the content below and you're out of viewability, then that video will float in the corner. So that's actually how you would do that. But let me find a page of theirs that actually has a video so I can show you what it looked like on mobile. Uwe says, hi, Charlie. Also great to see you again. I'm happy you're joining. I've enabled the display video setting in Humix and set it to the most relevant, but the AI always uses the same 2 videos and they are not at all relevant. Can I reset something? So yes, actually what I would do is I would reach out to us in the community and we can basically figure out why this is happening. I clearly was just talking about how great it does about finding relevant content, but of course, all these features are not brand new, so maybe it's best to just go through and see what happened here. Maybe it's something related to cache, or maybe something else completely irrelevant from that. But yeah, I'd be happy to figure that out. I don't know if there's something you can reset or configure on your end for this, but again, I'd be happy to show or try to figure it out for you. Let me see if I can find a page for y'all. Okay, let me share my screen. Sorry for the delay on that. I just wanted to find a good example. Cool. So this is an example of what the floating video will kind of look like. So you see the video's out of frame, then it's going to float here in the sidebar. Again, this is the top of the page. So once it's in viewability, that video will then filter into the mid content. Let's say I'm reading and engaging here. This ad will still continue to play. And then, as you can see, I keep going farther down. And now I have the video floating in the corner. So that's kind of how it's going to interact there. And then again, I think this is a Humix video that they created for their own website, which is super cool. You can see it's 5 minutes long. It can drive up engagement. It's going to talk about relevant stuff. Super cool. I have no audio, but I'm really curious what they're talking about. But yeah, that's kind of how it looks. And let's check this out, this page in mobile. Let's see what device, iPhone. Okay, we can do that. And then we always want to reload the page when we do that so we can see the page as if it was with mobile. So again, we have the video here at the top for this mobile version of the page. And then it floats here at the bottom. I think that was your question, if we could have a float at the top. I don't think there's a way you can configure this to float at the top, but let's take a quick look. But yeah, this is cool. This is something that I've been using on my side as well. It's definitely a good feature to have. I don't have a ton of video content, but it's been pretty fun to figure out some things. What was I looking at? Oh, the configuration. So add types. I don't think there's a configuration within here. And I don't think there's a way we can have that mobile floating video at the top of the page. But again, setting it up the way I had it, you can then have the page static at the top. And then when it's out of the viewability, you can scroll down. But good question here, Imran. So this question here is Chillaxation. Cool name, by the way. Hey there. Firstly, thanks for making this time for this webinar. Of course, I'm happy to do this. So I've officially launched my blog on Ezoic on January 6th. Pretty much turned on a ton of placeholders. And so 20 days after, ellipses, I'm still close to 4 times lower earnings than AdSense. Sure, I read it takes at least 3 months, but 4 times lower than AdSense. Is this normal? No, this is actually not normal. And most likely what the issue is here is there's probably some misconfiguration. One of the main things that I would stress on is you want to make sure that you do have mediation enabled. So within the dashboard, you can find, we're already in the Ezoic Ads tab, but we'll go from the Ezoic Ads tab to the AdSense mediation, and then you want to go to mediation here and enable it and set it up. What this process will basically look like is you'll link your AdSense account. So you'll fill out your email information here. It'll send you an email. You'll accept the email, so that way your AdSense account's linked. You'll then go through and enable mediation. You enter your AdSense information, And then now your AdSense partners can now bid against the Ezoic ones to ensure you're earning as much as possible. And if that is already done, what I would highly suggest doing, Chillax Nation, is actually reaching out to us in the community and having us take a look at your placeholder setup, because an improper placeholder setup will set you back a lot. And on top of that, since you were using AdSense prior, what you really want to make sure you do is you import historical AdSense data, because this will basically serve as a catalyst for our AI to learn. So if it normally does take actually anywhere from like 3 to 6 months. That's if you have 10,000 page views in a month. Excuse me. So what importing your historical AdSense data does is it basically serves as a catalyst. So our AI will learn your site a little bit quicker because it has more data. There is a correlation between more data and the more learning and better the actual performance will be. So that will set yourself up for success. Are Humix and display ad placeholders interchangeable? Example, or e.g., can we set up one placeholder that uses video and ads and then is optimized for best revenue? So that's actually a really good question. I don't know if we have a configuration for that right now, because the way it currently is set up is we can either have a video ad placeholder or a display ad. So custom kit, I know we've been working on a couple things recently, but that's a really good question. And I don't think we can set that up as of yet, but I think this is a really good idea and definitely something I can take to our ad tester team and say, hey, Publisher had this really good idea. Let's see if we can configure that. Because I'll agree with you and say, this is a really good idea, because let's say our AI tests a video placeholder in a location above the fold, or maybe or maybe farther down the page, and it actually performs really well. There's no reason why we shouldn't potentially test that for other users as well. So I think that's a really good idea. So do I have to add placeholder to each separate page? Is there a way to just include it in the header, same way as AdSense auto ads work? So not the same way AdSense auto ads work, but we have a different process that will function a similar way. But to take a step back, let's say you have a pretty basic HTML and you have a pretty basic layout of an article, and let's say you attach a placeholder to the first paragraph, which is a P element at the very top of your page under H1 or something. Let's say you add a placeholder to that P element, and all of your other articles have a similar layout and they also have that P element as the first paragraph. Then the placeholder will find the same location on other pages. But if you're attaching placeholders to random divs that are specific to that page, then they won't be finding the locations on other pages. But to take an even farther step back, if you're not sure about this, what I would actually do is just reach out to us in the community and say, hey, can you guys set up the ads for me? Because I'm not sure of the best configuration between them. And then kind of go from there, because we will be more than happy to go through and set things up for you. So my website is very slow. Ads are set. Why? How to optimize of my site. So when using Ezoic, it's important to know that we will always load content first. So adding ads to your site is not going to be like the one factor limiting to site speed. We will always serve content first, and then ads will show after. But the one thing you should definitely do is to go through and use Leap to analyze your core web vitals and then go from there. So this is a free tool to use. We can go to Leap, we can go to Optimize, we can see our scores. Mobile LCP is the only not passing thing right here. Let's click on that. We can see the scores over a long time frame, because Leap does analyze real user data, which is why it's not always going to be the same, because there's definitely different configuration for all. I want to clear the leave data because this is definitely old, but I won't do that because this is not my domain. But let's go and test one of these pages that are failing LCP for mobile. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I wanted to hit test in Ezoic lab right here. So what this will do, this will basically take a lab type scan of the entire page. It's going to tell you what optimization features are enabled, which ones you should enable to help, what are the biggest hindering elements to LCP. So maybe it's a massive image, maybe it's a header, and then it's also going to break down basically everything else on the page that is hindering or coming into play here. This is the first step I would do, and then the second thing I would do from here is to actually go to the technology section, and this will actually show you all of the technology you're using on your site, and it's going to say, hey, these plugins that you use are great and they're really fast, and it's going to say, hey, these plugins you use are really slow and really crappy. Again, we're not just saying this because we're saying it. We have all of this data from all these other websites that are also using the same configuration or the plugins, and we're going to say, hey, on average, the sites that use these plugins are performing much slower. So there is a direct correlation between the plugin and speed. And what I would actually do is, if let's say you're using some table of contents plugin that's very slow and we're flagging it, what I'll show you in a second after this loads is we'll actually have some alternatives for you guys to use that are both the same function but are also a lot faster. So again, if you're using a free table of contents plugin, we'll give you another recommendation that's free, faster, and has the same function. So that way you guys can kind of think of all of the things that come into your site speed play and then kind of make changes from there. Because again, not only does it matter the plugins you're using, but it also matters the type of kind of code you use on your site. But on top of that, it also depends on your cache rate. Let's say your cache is missing for that page, that will also come into play for your speed, especially when we're analyzing LCP. So yeah, I'm just waiting for this to load, but let me get some other questions. Oh, Gaz is here. Nice. Hey guys. Hey Charlie. Hello guys. Everyone, we can wave and say hi to Gaz mobily. Sorry I'm a bit late from work. I can hang around for a short time. Awesome. I'm happy to have you. I don't know if you're cooking or what, but I'm happy. You're off work. You're free. You know, for you, the next day is just Friday, which is always an exciting thing. But I'm still waiting for this to load. This is taking quite a good bit of time. I'm probably using a lot of resources on my computer right now. But I'm happy to have you around, Gaz. I would say, Gaz, one of the more important things that we talked about before you joined was actually how to configure the floating video. I'll be happy to go through it again because it looks like Imran has another question right down here below, which is actually another a really good point they just had. This is taking a minute. Let's just all take a deep breath, get zenned out while we wait for this to load. I really want to show you guys what this looks like. Hopefully you guys are following along and you guys are kind of doing something similar, because it is cool to see how this actually breaks down the entire page in terms of site speed. It's a really good tool. But I agree, Uwe, having the voiceover option is a really good idea. I think it's kind of a feature that is available in other places, and it's something that people really like because it kind of gives you your own personality to your own pages. But yeah, I think it's also a great option. Okay, I don't know why this is taking so long. Let me try to refresh the page and run a different one. Well, let me just run through the technologies tab really quick. So again, this is another example of how we flag all the technologies you guys use and then kind of analyze them from there. So let's say this publisher is using MailChimp. It says 35% of domains using technology perform significantly worse than the average site. So what we're saying here is that publishers that use this have a lower site speed score. We can then view alternatives. We can say, hey, look, Firepush is another one. It does require paid subscription, but there's also a free version. But but it's saying that other publishers that use this perform much faster, and this technology is actually much faster than MailChimp itself. So you guys obviously don't have to follow these recommendations verbatim for what they say, but you can take into consideration, say, hey, I noticed that this plugin that's not really that essential and I don't use that much is actually creating a huge hindrance to site speed. Maybe this will be one okay, I can just delete and remove, and kind of go from there. So you guys can use your best judgment. We just wanted to be fully transparent with what is coming into play in terms of your site speed. Let's see if I can load a page again really quick. So Emron, this is a really good point. Follow up on the floating on mobile bottom. People use your right hand and scroll with the thumb. After scrolling down once, float video at the bottom, it interferes with user experience. So I mean, I think that's a really good point. Let's say, you know, I have my phone in my hand. Well, I'm using my hand backwards. But yeah, I do also scroll with my hand like this. So I totally understand why that can be a concern. Well, I'm just going to come back to this. So what you can actually do is, because I think a lot of people would agree with you, and we want to give you the full, you know, customizability and full control of how your ads and everything show. So under ad types, you can go to this floating video, and you can simply just turn this off for mobile. I understand what you're getting at. You're saying, hey, you know, maybe we can just have this float at the top of the page because, you know, that might be better for user experience because of the way their thumb scrolls. But I would also have you consider, when people do scroll with their thumb, especially in the bottom right, they're normally reading whatever's at the top of the screen. So you might have to think about what would actually be better in this scenario. And I would probably argue that the floating video on the bottom will be less hindrance to user experience because, you know, when I'm on my phone and I'm scrolling through, I'm mostly looking at the things that are at the top of the page as I scroll. So yeah, that's just something to consider, but you can always go ahead and turn this off for mobile. Um, as as Guys, just to circle back really quick, we were talking about the floating videos. So what I was saying is, if you do want to turn this on, go ahead and turn that on, and then go into Humix right after, go to the channel and turn on grow and engage. This will allow you to use other publishers' videos for your pages that are relevant, or supposed to be relevant. Of course, we have an example here where they're not, but we'll definitely get that figured out. Usama, great question. I kind of just went through this a bit, but I would like you to just think about the entire equation of site speed. It's not just going to be ads loading on your page. You have tons of plugins. You have your host coming into play. You have tons of other things. You have internet connection. You have, you know, depending on where your audience is at. So yeah, but I'll be more than happy to go through that again if you would like me to. But yeah, contact us for more clarification because we'll be happy to say, hey, you know what? We see that you have a US or UK audience, which is kind of tier one traffic. We should definitely see a higher EPMV. But let's say your EPMV is from another country that isn't top tier traffic. Maybe this average EPMV is quite normal. Or maybe you can say, hey, we notice that your pages are extremely short, which is why the engagement is pretty low, which is why the EPMV is a little bit lower. But yeah, there's just so many different things that we want to actually analyze when we do answer this question. So we want to take a look at all of those things before we do give you an answer that actually makes sense to your use case. Hi, Charlie. How are you doing today? I'm doing pretty well. It's going to be a long day, but it's going to be a good one for sure. Hopefully you're having a good day as well. 4+ days ago, I added my site more than 20 video placeholders in different pages, but they still don't appear. Deleted the Humix cache, but doesn't work. What should I do? So this is probably something you should also reach out to us in support. I'm trying to remember your domain name. I know you've been in here in the past, and I just don't remember your domain name off the top of my head. If you want to share with us, I can try to troubleshoot this for you firsthand if you would like. But I don't remember your domain name off the top of my head. But yeah, we would just want to make sure that the configuration within Leap is actually correct, and you also have placeholders that are being found and actually sticking to the page. Actors Vault Pro asks, in multiple customer management, also known as MCM, the invitation status approved, but an Ezoic account setup is asking me to connect to Google again and again. What to do? So this is most likely means your either account is approved and your domain is getting disapproved, which is why you're now having to reapply and reapply. This means you're probably getting denied. And if you want us to take a look at this, just let us know and we can definitely do that for you, because there's a lot of different reasons why you get denied. So I could answer this objectively, but it'd be a little bit hard to figure out and pinpoint what exactly is coming into play for your scenario. But yeah, let me know what your domain name is and I can pull it up and I can tell you exactly why, or I can do my best to pull it up. Let's see. No, I don't know your domain name. So yeah, let me know what your domain name is and I can try to pull up and answer that for you a little bit more directly. Actually, I think I did find it. Hold on. I won't share your domain because obviously you didn't give me consent, but okay. So who asked this question? Actors Vault Pro. So what happened was your account got approved for ad manager, and but your domain did not yet. So what this means is it was getting denied for a certain reason. And in your case, we actually provided you feedback as to exactly why you're getting denied. And it's because you have categories in your menu that lead to pages with only a couple blogs. So each category in your menu is going to need 6 or more articles in order for it to get approved. Why? I don't know, because Google says so. Quite literally, we have to just abide by what they say. And this is one of those things where they're like, it's considered low value content if a publisher has a category in the menu with only 3 or 4 articles. Even if those articles are the best 4 articles the world has ever seen, doesn't matter if they're 10,000 words, 1,000 words, 1,500 words, Google's just going to deny for whatever reason they choose. So it's important that each category has 6 articles or more. And we flagged the pages on yours in the dashboard that have less than 6 articles. So one of them's, Malayan actors. Another one is Telugu actors. Excuse me if I butchered that. Another one was international actors. So we actually flagged those pages that have too little content. And now that I actually open up the page, again, I won't share it because you didn't give me consent. I'm only seeing 3 articles underneath those categories, which is exactly why you're getting denied. Emmanuel asks, does the WordPress theme you use on your site affect your Ezoic setup? Yes, in a couple ways. It also affects site speed. So let's say you're actually using like a pro version of a theme. Version of a theme usually requires more to be loaded onto a page. And when there's more scripts and stuff to be loaded onto a page, the slower it's going to be. So there's actually studies and data that points to a simpler theme is actually better for both user experience and revenue, because obviously the better the user experience, the better engagement, the better the revenue. So sometimes using a simpler theme like 2021 or Cadence or 2022, I think I'm right now using 2021. That's a very simple theme that's fast and quick. On top of that, let's say you use a theme like Elementor or something else that has used maybe like spans instead of P elements for your text. Sometimes the spans don't function the same and don't work the same in terms of adding a placeholder and having it attached to multiple pages. So that's also how it can come into play. But also, if you're using one theme and then you do make changes and you want to go to another theme, what will actually happen is some of the placeholders could be lost just because you're using a different setup and layout. So if you are changing themes, it's also important to reach out to us so we can tell you basically what to do just before you make changes. Or if you've already made changes, we can help you kind of resolve those things and set yourself up for success in the new theme. Oh yeah, Annex. I actually tried reaching out to you, but I think I have the wrong email because I reached out when I was gonna ask a question about the current configuration with your site. But I must have had the wrong email because they were like, nope, I'm not annexed, and I definitely did not, buy a Tesla with my recent earnings. But hopefully, you do get that car, and it comes in soon. But if possible, is there any way you could actually share your email with me? Or how about I just throw my email down in the bottom, and you can reach out to me, Annex. But yeah, here's my email. Any of you guys that need anything particular, reach out to me if you're just like, hey, I don't know who to reach out to. I don't know where to go for help. Yeah, just reach out to me and I say, hey, if it's a quick fix, I can help you out with that. If it's something that needs a little bit more investigation and a little bit more TLC, then I can then show you how to get to the community and put you in the right spot. Take a step back here. I do actually have plans to reach out to you, Charlie, soon. Headed for 6,000 plus page views this month, and EPMV is still quite low. I need a health check on my site. I'll be more than happy to do this. So if this is also you guys, just like, hey, I've been set up for a little bit, but I feel like something's just not right. Can you just go through and check and go through some of the major things you check on your end to make sure everything's okay? I'll be more than happy to do that. I'll definitely be happy to do that. But Gaz is a perfect example of my leap scores are 100 and 100 for core web vitals though. So this is a good example of, you can have ads on your page, you can have a good earning in EPMV coming through, and it can also have really good core web vital scores. So it's just about getting the right configuration, enabling the right settings, disabling the certain plugins, using fast plugins, and then basically putting yourself in the best position to be fast. But then hello again, Annex. Nice to see you. Love having you in here. Annex is a great source of wisdom, a successful publisher themselves, so we love having them in here. My site is integrated using Cloudflare. I'm using Cloudflare cache settings, and I also am using Ezoic caching with CDN. Will this cause any conflicts? So great question, Matthews. It will not create any conflicts as long as your cache configuration is set to standard. If it's set to standard, then everything will be okay. But if it's set to something more than standard that has like a custom configuration, then you could definitely run into some issues. Like if there's page caching involved, or maybe if there's certain HTML caching involved, that can be an issue with our XPath. But yeah, if the Cloudflare cache is set to standard, then you should be all good. So my domain was denied several times for low value content. Please help. There's a lot of things that I want to say about the low value content denial. The first thing I will say is to make sure that every category in your article within the menu leads to 6 articles or more. Again, that's another reason why Google will flag for low value content. Let's say you have more than 6 articles per category, but maybe you have but maybe you have articles showing under 2 different categories. So let's say you have a sports category and like a sports equipment category. Let's say an article actually is relevant to both, so you have it under both categories. Google is going to flag that for low value content and deny. So that's another thing to look out for. A third reason why they can deny for low value content is if you just have unoriginal content. So let's say you have scraped content on your page, that's another thing. So I would definitely say go through your menu, make sure everything works, there's no broken links, there's no repeated articles, and that all the content is original. So Ashton, if this is the case, hey everyone, hey Charlie. So I've noticed in the last few days my views have dropped from 1.2 thousand views daily to around to 1 to 200. I saw that it happened as soon as I let AI add placeholders itself. So in theory, there's no reason why AI placeholders would be this directly correlated to 1,000 page views, daily. What I think is happening here is there's probably issues with maybe your Google Search Console, maybe you're using Bluehost and we're running to that issue as well. but I would probably push back on you and say that there's definitely something else configured here that we should probably take a look at. Um, Again, that's not for sure, but I've never, ever seen someone enable AI placeholders and see this drastic of a drop. I would also say check out some of the other plugins and things you are using. Let's say you're using Monster Insights to analyze Google Analytics. That's okay. But let's say you're using Jetpack to also analyze analytics. That's not good because Jetpack actually kills our data tracking. So if you enable Jetpack, you might see 10 visits the next day. You might see 200. You might even see 0. So Jetpack is not compatible with Ezoic. And I would probably push back on this and say AI ads is not directly correlated. But I would definitely say reach out to the community so we can get this situated as soon as possible, because obviously this is something that we want to get our hands on as soon as possible and just get you all set and ready to go. But I do want to check something for you really quick. I want to check something out. I want to see if I can just find your domain so I can do a quick check to see why, but I can't find your domain. So reach out to us in the community, and I'll definitely be able to help from there. So again, this is another scenario where ads directly would not be correlated with pure failing core vitals, because we have so many publishers that are configured correctly and that do have passing core web vitals to the max, like literally 100 scores, as Gas also has. So I would go through your Leap configuration and check out your things there. Let me show you how this would look. I know I just did this a couple minutes ago, but it seems other people have joined and people are asking. So let me go through this for you guys. I hope you guys also like my coffee mug. Oh. So if you are seeing failing core web vitals, I'll give you a quick rundown because I just did this recently and I don't want people to sit around and double up on information, but it is a very important one. So I wanted to touch up on it really quick. The first thing I would do is analyze my cache. So I'm going to go into the Leap section. I'm going to go into my caching, and I want my caching hit percentage to be as high as possible because there is a direct correlation with LCP. I want to go through my settings and make sure that this is on. This is set to 2.5 million seconds, 300 seconds. Should be on, and 600. Now that your cache is configured perfectly, I want you to go through your optimize and go through and enable all the settings you currently do not. So if minify CSS is not enabled, turn that on, and these as well. So that way you do have a complete configuration, and then go through and just analyze your current pages that are failing and see exactly what's going wrong. You can do that by going through Leap. You can do measure, click on LCP, find a page here once it loads, and then click on Test in Ezoic Lab. I just did this a handful of times before and it wasn't loading, but let me see if I can load it again while I answer some other questions. Relax says, hey, I developed a Chrome extension. How would I be able to monetize it with ads? So we don't have a way of doing this yet. I don't know if it's something that we are currently working on, but it's definitely been in the plans. It's been in strategy as maybe kind of a task to tackle. But yeah, we don't have a way of doing that quite yet. Browser TTL, I have it set to 1 year. That's a good question. I don't know what the browser time to live should be, but I can go through that again in a bit. I'm not exactly sure the answer there. Annex, thanks for emailing me. That's perfect. Oh, here we go. It loaded. Cool. If we write a new article, do we need to purge Ezoic cache? So what I would actually do is I would actually just go through and set up automatic caching through Ezoic, so that way you never have to clear cache manually ever again. And it's a pretty easy process. All you need is the plugin. You basically just link the API from the dashboard to the CDN tab of your plugin, and then you're done. There's that for you. I just sent the link down in the comment section. So this is what it's actually going to look like when we analyze the page. It's going to say, hey, this P tag is going to be the biggest hindrance to your LCP. It's going to give you a lab scan of the page. It's going to tell you the current settings enabled and the ones not enabled. It's going to say, ensure text is visible during WebBot load, reduce JavaScript, and then also avoid enormous network payloads. And then they'll basically analyze from there on. So that's kind of what you can do page by page to really get down into the nitty gritty. Now let me keep going through here. About placeholders, is it worth it to enable those extra sizes if the template allows us that don't come with default settings? Could this practice impact negatively on my EPMV? So the default configuration is actually really good, but this is also something you should look at in terms of your current pages. Because if your content is pretty wide and you can have those billboard ads, which is like the 970 by 250, I believe, or the 970 by 330s, those are going to be those really wide, kind of tall ones that are kind of like that. If those can fit in the area that is designated with a placeholder, I would for sure say go through and enable those sizes so they can be tested. There is a correlation between more variables and also the better the AI learns, and then the better user experience and the better the revenue. So increasing the amount of variables for AI to test is only going to help you out a lot. Let's say you enable a really small size that does not perform very well, then the AI is just going to continue to not test that. It might every now and then to figure it out, but that's kind of the way the AI logic is built out. So enabling placeholders that will fit within content in a page is never a bad idea, unless it's something that looks like maybe a little ridiculous, like at the top of the page, just because a mobile sidebar size that's really skinny and tall can fit at the top of your content might not be the best plan of action there. So that's also something to consider. So I think my EPMV issue might be the way I place my placeholders and the sizes. Oops, keep dropping stuff. I'm very protective with the way I want my site to look and the user experience. I think it may have hobbled me. So yeah, and this is something that we definitely understand. I think there's a misconception when people come to Ezoic. It's like, oh, we lose full control of our DNS and where ads show. Well, in theory, not at all, because you can control all the variations and places the ads can show. You still have full control over that, and you still also have full control over your DNS and your cache and everything like that. But you do want to maybe loosen the ropes a little bit and say, hey, our AI is designed to, maximize user experience and revenue at the same time. So we'll never do anything malicious to ruin user experience, because that works against you in the long run, which also works against us in the long run. So it's something to consider. Maybe if you think you're pretty biased in how a page should look, maybe you could ask a handful of your friends and say, hey, what do you think about the current configuration? Is this annoying? Can you still get to the content and kind of indulge everything you've written, and kind of go from there? But it's a very valid point, and it's a very fair concern that you have. And I think I'm also the same. I wouldn't just give full ropes and say, hey, let's test 5 million placeholders on the page. But I would definitely say, you know what, I might not love this location and size, but maybe for a specific subset of my users or my visitors, this could be very beneficial. So that's something to consider. So yeah, so the beauty is, you can enable the places and the sizes that you think are okay to test. But if you're saying I only want this size in this location every time, then you're really you're cutting off the potential of the AI. So you want to find the sweet spot of like, I'm okay with these locations and I'm okay with these sizes, even though I personally might not love them, but maybe my users will. And then of course, our AI will go through that learning phase of like, hey, this ad is not performing well for a large subset of users. Let's not test it again. And then we'll kind of go from there. But I agree. I don't like the big white spaces either. So it's something to consider. If you do have the smaller ads enabled, why is my computer going to die? It's literally plugged in. What the heck? Well, my computer is almost dead and it's plugged into my charger, so this cannot be something good. Um, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up in the next couple minutes. But I totally agree with you here. I just think you should consider, you know, what kind of adverse effects cutting off the potential of the AI has, because the AI has the capabilities of testing hundreds of thousands of different variations, and some of those variations are going to be really, really beneficial to a certain subset of users. So again, limiting that is really only cutting off the potential for maybe a certain subset of your users, but maybe that certain subset of users is a much larger sample than you might actually assume. So that's kind of something you want to consider. My page is unresponsive. What the heck is going on? Okay, so this is probably going to be my last question I'm going to be able to answer because my computer is on 4% while plugged into my charger, which makes no sense at all. But let me show you how to remove a placeholder from the top of your page using the Chrome extension. Oh, Imran, I don't know. So there's a potential that this could be a different type of placeholder. So if it is only giving you that option, please reach out to us in the community and we can show you how to remove that specific placeholder, because we are testing different placeholders right now. Um, we have a different system or service of adding placeholders. So they're not fully customizable from your end yet, but we are also only enabling these for publishers that give us consent to do this. So it won't be for yours unless you actually say so. But uh, let's say I'm on this page right here. Let me share my screen. My computer's lagging. This is not good. Good question right here. So Leap Score analyzes real user data, and Page Speed Insights is a lab type scan of above the fold on your page. So they kind of analyze similar but also very different things. I would trust Leap because it goes off what your real users are doing and seeing. It's not going off a lab type scan. Also, Page Speed Insights only takes above the fold of the lab type scan, so that doesn't really represent what a real user would do. A real user will absolutely scroll below the fold to engage in the content. So that's something to consider here.